Very bitter locker room after a very big loss by the Cleveland Browns. See, what'd you make of this team yesterday?
Well, they didn't play well. They didn't play well. And one of the things in trying to put a team together, and especially when team has a young players that aren't used to winning in the pros, and most of the veterans that they brought there aren't used to winning. So you have a young culture that brings in other players that aren't used to winning. And this wasn't even a primetime game, but Tennessee is underrated as a franchise. Vrabel had those boys ready to play fundamentally, and they're very, very physical. One of the question marks just from a team going forward with the Browns was how good would their offensive line be? Last year, they were a pleasant surprise when Freddie Kitchens took over. Their ability to be able to run the ball, have balance on offense, that's what they were able to do. But they're not immature as a football team. You could see with the penalties, not that many penalties since the Raiders in 2016, 18 penalties, 180 yards. It's impossible to win a football game. So if
when you have that many penalties, who do you pin that on? The coach not getting the team ready, or is that just them not being ready?
No, that's just an excuse. Anyone who blames the coach because, say their left tackle, Cam Robinson, he kicks a guy.
Yeah.
It's not the coach's fault. In the heat of battle, a guy kicks another guy. No, that's not the coach's fault. That's him. He doesn't have any type of discipline. I'm sure that they'll have a bunch of these clips together, and as a team, they'll learn from it. But no, we shouldn't blame Freddie Kitchens. But it shows that when you bring together a bunch of kids who have not won in the NFL and guys from other teams, Olivia Vernon, he hadn't won with the Giants. OBJ hadn't won where he's been. Sheldon Richardson, he hadn't won on a big, big level where he's been. So now you have these in with all the guys who've been there that have been losers. So we talked about them when they have a bad month, how would they respond? Well, here we go. The first month is off, and they're not doing well, as you can see in the interviews, and they definitely didn't do well in the most important thing, the football game yesterday.
How do you lose games in the NFL? Turn the ball over? That's usually the best way to lose games. Baker threw 3 fourth-quarter picks. How about third and fourth down efficiencies? Well, the Browns were miserable. They were 1 of 12 on third and fourth downs. You mentioned the penalties. Most in the NFL in 3 or 4 years, the most in Browns team history.
18.
I mean, 18 penalties for 180 yards is laughable. One other way to lose, get your quarterback hit a bunch. A way to do that is have your left tackle, who's not that good to begin with, get kicked out of the game. Greg Robinson for kicking somebody. He should have been kicked out of the game. That was obviously intentional. I know watching the game, there was some question, did he mean to? To my eye and to the ref's eye, he clearly meant to. And now, of those 4 things, the one that is most concerning to me is the last one, Baker getting hit. Because when we were doing the tale of the tape on paper about Cleveland, the least proven part of their team, the least talented part of their team was their offensive line. Maybe their best offensive lineman from last year, Kevin Zeitler. He now plays for the New York Giants. He was part of the Olivier Vernon trade. We knew Greg Robinson, who's their left tackle, the guy who got kicked out of the game, they waived him before the start of the year for salary cap reasons, knowing they could bring him back. If your left tackle's in a position where you could put him available to the whole league, right, and you're like, don't worry, we'll get you back, yeah, right, well, that shows you the position that you're in. With all that said, this is a 15-13 game with 17 minutes left. And then the wheels fell off. Right after the Browns had their first good drive since their first drive of the game, the very next play, Derrick Henry, 75-yard screen pass that fooled every single member of the Browns defense. After that, the Browns, on their next 4 possessions, turned it over on downs once, and Baker threw 3 interceptions, including a pick 6. So if you didn't watch this game, this wasn't a blowout from start to finish.
Right.
This is a 2-point game with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and then the Browns hit some adversity, and they absolutely laid down. It doesn't change my opinion on them for the season, but this is a terrible way for their season to start.
I know you've been really high on Tennessee's offense coming in, and I know you like them a lot, but what surprised you more about Cleveland, their offense or their defense?
Well, I was surprised defensively that they didn't get to the quarterback more. I thought they would be able to put more pressure on the quarterback. As Nick said, I watched this whole game. It was a tight game going back and forth. You would expect Tennessee to be in a 21-20 game, 2017 game. They made a couple big plays, and they had already outclassed Cleveland. They were more physical than them at the point of attack. They kept their head, their composure. But at the end, when Baker just tried to force the ball, which he tried to try to bring them back, that's how you get the 3 interceptions. So The 3 interceptions are a little misleading. Baker was not accurate like he typically is, but some of that came from the hits that he absorbed earlier in the game, and that's why he had to get an X-ray. I believe something was wrong with his right arm. He got sacked earlier in the game, and you could see his right arm kind of went numb, or he lost the feeling in that. I believe it because 2 of the interceptions was all accuracy. He had guys open, and the ball didn't go where he was aiming
and his
it to
hand,
go.
you could see it when he left the stadium, was in a
soft wrap.
cast.
And listen, they said their X-rays were negative, but I agree. Obviously, something happened there. But this is where the lack of a veteran who, to Chris's point, has done some winning, I think showed up in the fourth quarter, where it was an absolute stomach punch to that team that after they had fought back to get it to a 2-point game, 30 seconds later, 1 play later, Derrick Henry streaming down the sidelines for a 75-yard touchdown. You're down 2 scores again. But even then, you're down 9 with 16 and a half minutes left. The game is far from over, and the Browns unraveled from that point forward. Listen, the team that, if you're not picking the Browns, I think most people are picking the Steelers to win their division. They also lost by 30 points this weekend. Now, the Ravens looked unbelievable, and we'll talk more about them later. I wouldn't bury the Browns just yet, to say the least, but obviously, Week 1 went terribly in every way it could have. Baker got hit. They turned the ball over. They couldn't convert 3rd or 4th downs. And the penalties are, that'll probably be the most penalties any team commits in any game, all 256 games played in the league this year. Not a great debut for Freddie Kitchens and the new-look Browns.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.